In this video, I'm going to show you how to bring in a contour drawing that will be used as the basis for the Toposolid. I'm in the file that has the property lines. In the last step, we centered the site on Revit's base point. And one of the reasons we did that is so that it aligns with the CAD drawing that I'm going to bring in. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and I'm going to import the CAD file. And I will look for that CAD file, click on Open. Okay, now you may notice that nothing appears to happen, but there are some additional lines that are present. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off the crop window so we can see the full contour map. Now, one of the reasons that there's different ways of producing a Toposolid. One is to bring in a CAD file like I've just done, and then use that as the basis for the Toposolid. Another would be to sort of set up individual points. But in reality, the normal way that you would integrate some kind of site topography would be through taking the work of a surveyor, civil engineer, and bringing it into your file. So we're kind of duplicating that process to some degree. Now, how many points there are is really going to be dependent on the particular survey. As you can see with this contour map, our site is relatively small. The contour map is including a bunch of buildings, at least their footprints, along this street. And then towards the north side of it, we have a hill that slopes up from south to north. Okay, so now we have this CAD file that's brought in. And by the way, you want to do this while you're in the site view. So floor plans, site, go and import that CAD file. All right, the next step then would be to turn that site contour map into a Toposolid. So if you go to the Massing and Site tab and you click on Toposolid, you can create one from the import. And then, it says here CAD and CSV. So an alternate way to do this would be to take like an Excel file, or it's that file type, that spreadsheet type, which is a CSV, which is basically just a table of points and then plot it. But we used this CAD drawing as our. Okay, so click on that and click on the imported file. So what you see here is a whole list of layers. If you were to open up that CAD file and went to the layer manager, you would see all these. We are not going to use all of these layers as the basis for our topo surface. Instead, we are going to, first of all, check none, remove all those check marks, and all we want are the contours. So I'm going to say, okay. And that's what it is producing so far. Now, you'll notice that the graphic for this part down here is quite different than the upper portions of the topography. I'm going to go to the 3D view now, and you can kind of see what it is that we've brought in. We're going to make some changes to the visual graphics of this, so you can kind of get a better sense of what's happening with the topography. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, I'm going to click on the topography, and I'm going to edit the type. Let's see here. And next thing I want to do is go to the contour display, click on edit. So these are some default values. So there are both primary contours and secondary contours. So sometimes what you would do is you might have like a darker line representing the primary contours. In this case, by default, it would be every 5 feet. And then you'd have a set perhaps of slightly lighter ones that would be at a smaller increment. We're going to actually turn off the small one, and we're going to change the interval to 50 feet. This is a very steep slope, and the contours that were drawn in AutoCAD are set every 50 feet. So these gray lines that you see. All right, now we're going to hit apply and OK. And let's just take a look. Okay, so that is what's happened with that. We've turned off those other contours, the ones that were at lesser increments. And now we're just left with these 50-foot contour lines. Okay, that's one thing. Now I'm going to go back to the site plan. And what you can see is that, this isn't so important to do, but I think just to kind of clarify what we're looking at right now, if we go above this contour, I think this one is at 200 feet. Everything else is kind of being shown as if it's a cut line. So what we're going to do is we're going to alter the view range. Is that here? So here it is. And yes, as you can see, everything above the top of the view range is being shown as a kind of a cut line. So I'm going to raise this up to 500. And I'm going to do the same thing with the cut plane. That'll put it above it as if we're just looking at it as a site plan. And okay. All right, so now all the line work is the same. One other change, if I go to the 3D view, I'm going to make is it's kind of a jagged line here. And one setting you can have is to, check mark the smooth shading, and it's giving you a kind of a warning notation. Let's take a look at this in realistic view. So there we have a kind of grassy hill, and this is something that, you could either leave this as it is, or you could make this change. I'm going to click on the topo surface, and by default, I'm getting grassland 16 inches of depth. If you click on edit type here, after you've selected it, and you click on edit, I don't know, it's up to you if you want to keep that as grass. It's putting a gravel substrate, which is something that you probably wouldn't have across this huge context like we have here. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to delete it. And I'm also, let's see here, we'll leave that as it is for now. Anyway, this is not so critical at this time, but eventually we'll start seeing some sections through the site and that layer of gravel will show. We may come back and actually remove the grass layer as well. And okay. Okay, one more change that we're going to make. By default, when this came in and it was, we generated a Toposolid out of it, it made the thickness of the ground. Let's take a look here. I'm going to select it, height offset from level. So it's been set at level 1, and then it's going down -6 inches, probably because that was the lowest one. I'm going to make this -20 feet. And if you'll notice what it's doing down at the bottom here, it made it thicker. So we have 20 feet of earth below the site. It may look very small given the sort of the scale of this hill, but when we cut our sections through the building that you're going to be designing here, we want to make sure that there's enough earth below it to kind of cover any kind of foundations or subgrade work. All right, and that's it for the Toposolid.